and before I begin, I just want to say thank you to everyone who makes this event work, including you. And also, don't pay too much attention to the silly slide selection. It's, we'll see if it works. Yeah, so again, my name is David Boehnke, and I'm a volunteer organizer for the Experimental College of the Twin Cities, or EXCO. How many of you have heard of us before? If you could just raise your hand, I'd appreciate it. Awesome. Yes, thank you. Tell me if I'm too loud. So what is EXCO? We're a free school for social change based on the principle that everyone can teach classes, everyone can take classes, and all classes are free. Classes meet all over the Twin Cities, can be on anything, and are led by volunteer facilitators on the basis of need. We started this organization in 2006 in reaction to and reflection on struggles, specifically an unsuccessful fight against an admissions policy change at Macalester College, best understood as affirmative action for people with money. Deepened through engagement with the General College Truth Movement, expanded through the Ask Me strike at the University of Minnesota, community outreach and cross-campus organizing, we are rooted in struggle and reflection and are committed to creating opportunities for individuals, communities, and movements to self-educate themselves according to their own needs and desires. But let's get back to this everyone can teach thing. What can people here teach? And I'm going to actually try to call on people in the audience, so if people want to raise their hand. Who can teach something here, and what would you teach? Any volunteers? It's not too hard. Yes. Yes. Rugby, awesome. Behind you? Computer programming, wonderful. Relaxation, all the better. Yes, you. Photography, wonderful. Drums and percussion, one more. Right there. Accounting, excellent. So this is kind of what we do. Yeah. So now, when we began 2 years ago, we had very little organizing experience or community connections, and this is something we're still paying for. Nevertheless, and somewhat miraculously, we had 6 classes our first fall 2006, then 12, then 20, then 50 last spring, and 30 in our first ever summer session this last summer. We also have an amazing set of fall classes coming up, which will be open for registrations September 1st. And while we still have a lot of work to do, we have spent the last year in particular building relationships with individuals, organizations, and movements, working to ground ourselves in communities, particularly communities of color and working class communities, so as to become the powerful, diverse organization we've envisioned from the beginning. Moreover, given our goals, relationship focus, and open structure at all levels, we are confident that we can become that type of organization in a few years. And our work is beginning to pay off. See, for example, the list of classes we've had this last summer, which will show up eventually, as well as the map of where classes are being held, which will also show up eventually. Even more excitingly, we're starting to have organizations come to us, seeking to collaboratively run with our model, and we are grateful and excited by these opportunities. We've also had so many wonderful classes, from bike feminism, which was both feminist theory and bike mechanics, and we've become its own activist group called Dames on Frames, to Latino labor organizing for alternatives to globalization, which combined ESL learners with activists and students, and so many more, from basic sewing to web design for activism, American Indians and their lands, to fermentation basics, anarchist anthropology to spoken word poetry, gentrification to climate change to harmonica living. But this year of relationship building has furnished us with more than great classes and connections. It has inspired and challenged us to dream big and envision new ways to build our organization. From creating more organizing chapters at colleges, yes, but also community centers, housing blocks, neighborhoods, and maybe even prisons, to developing movement-based groups called EXCO cores to bring together connections of different movements, racial justice, popular education, radical food system, for example, to figure out how to use EXCO to best build their movements, and to intentionally connect people into the amazing work that is already going on. Or to build a database of knowledge that people have to share, to be a common community resource for everyone, from the neighbor who wants to fight gentrification in their neighborhood, to a student wanting help in a research project, to the local artist looking for collaborators. In all this, then, we talk about EXCO as being both a critique of the status quo and a model for how things can be, with the intent on transforming the present. As an educational institution, we have most experience with education, and we've learned something about it which I would summarize in 4 principles. 1, education should be free. And indeed, all EXCO classes are free. 2, education should be a form of community resource mapping. That is a way of identifying, developing, and connecting existing community resources, and therefore building the power, relationship networks, and self-articulation of our communities. 3, education should be in itself a good, valuable in itself, no grades, no credit, just EXCO. 4, education should be directly linked to social change. We find this both in the principle that everyone can teach and that anything can be taught, with a particular focus on knowledges that have been historically marginalized, and in the intentional linking of EXCO to movements. We envision this type of education as a way of deepening communities as opposed to separating them, growing out of communities' goals as opposed to being enforced upon them. Education open to everyone, not just the privileged few, of being liberating, not mind-numbing, desired, not coerced. And while we are not naive to the world, we believe that we should put what we want first and try to get there second. And to get there, we could use your help. What can you do? First and foremost, spread the word. Let people know about the free and open classes we are offering, about the opportunity to teach, and about our broader vision. Second, if you like what we're doing, think about donating online at www.excotc.org. But lastly, and most importantly, we're always looking for more organizers. As an all-volunteer project, we are no bigger than our volunteers, so get in touch, get involved. When you act, EXCO grows. Thank you.